So in previous video we saw the different issues that may faced by a load balancing algorithm. So now in order to overcome these issues, we have a certain set of policies. We see the policy one by one. So the very first policy is load estimation policy. So this policy determines how to estimate the workload of each node. Second, process transfer policy. This determines whether to execute a process locally, that is within a node, or to execute the process in a remote node somewhere else and get the result back. State information exchange policy. Here it determines how to exchange the load information among the nodes. Location policy. It determines to which node the transferable process, the process to be transferred, should be sent. So whether it may be a light loaded node or a heavy loaded node. So based on that it will determine and it will send a particular process. Priority assignment policy. It determines the priority of execution of local and remote processes. It will determine whether to execute the process local, whether to execute a local process or a remote process based on the priority. Migration limiting policy. It determines the total number of times a process can migrate. So let us see everything in detail. So the very first is load estimation policy of load balancing algorithm. So to balance the workload on all the nodes of a system, it is necessary to decide how to measure the workload on a particular node. So in order to measure the particular node within a particular node, it is necessary to know the following factors. With time that are the total number of processes on a node, resource demands on these processes, instruction mixes of these processes, architecture and speed of the node processor. So based on this, we can say the capability of a particular node and how they can efficiently manage the load. So based on that, there are several load balancing algorithm that uses total number of processes to achieve a big efficiency. Like a particular node can handle 5 processes, 10 processes or 50 processes. So based on that, they used to see if a particular node can handle more number of processes, we can say that it is more efficient. So apart from that, let us see what are the other things we need. In some cases, the true load could vary widely depending upon the remaining service time, which can be measured in several times. Service time, if suppose we consider this work should be done in 5 minutes, but in 5 minutes a particular process or a particular node finishes the work in 2 minutes. So what is the remaining time? The remaining time is 3 minutes. So we say that since the remaining time is more than the actual time, we consider that it is more efficient because it does the work with the minimum time as expected. So how we can classify them or how it is categorized, we can see memoryless method assumes all the processes have same expected time, the same expected remaining service time independent of the time used so far. So it is where they feel that all the processes required have the same execution time, or say after doing after the particular process is executed, the remaining service time is also same for all the processes. So this is how the memoryless method assumes, because they don't have the record of previous processes executed. So since they don't have the record of that, it is called memoryless method. Hence they appear or feel to assume that all have the same expected remaining service time. Okay, so the next one is past repeats. So the past repeats assumes that remaining service time is equal to the time used so far. So it may have encountered a few processes. They have been executing a particular time. For example, each processes would have taken the time for about 1 hour. So it will assume that the next incoming process will also take the same time to execute. So this is about past repeat processes. Now comes distribution method. Here, the states that if the distribution service is known, the associated processes remaining service time is expected, remaining time conditioned by the time already used. So, in case of distributed states, what happens? The distribution service time is known. That is the time for distributing a service to each and every node will be known, and based on that association remaining time. So if suppose a particular process particular process at node 1 finishes its task, so it will see how much the remaining time is there, and based on that it will calculate how far the other processes which are so far distributed among the nodes will complete the given job or given task. So based on that the load will be distributed. So now we see none of the previous methods can be used in modern systems because periodically running processes and daemons. Because of the periodically, we see the processes are periodically running in the sense that we have more and more number of processes, and the requirement for the process is also much more. So these above things, what are those above things? The memoryless or the past repeat or the state determine cannot be used. So an acceptable method for the load in order to calculate the load estimation policy is, we know that, to measure the CPU utilization of the node. So how a CPU utilization of a particular node can be measured? So in order to measure that, we will see the number of CPU cycles actually executed per unit of real time. Per unit of real time. It can be measured by setting up a timer to periodically check the CPU state. So that will be a timer that will check whether the CPU is idle or busy. If it is idle, then it will assume the load. If it is busy, it will look for another processor or another node to allocate the load. So now this is all about load estimation policy. Now we will see the process transfer policy. Now we can first, it is about identifying the node and how to transfer the node. So now we are seeing how the process can be transferred. If load is something, the requirement, it is given. Now process in the sense something we need in order to process the load or to act over on the load so that the particular task or given task can be completed. So these processes are mostly based on a threshold policy. We all know what is a threshold. Threshold will be a minimum or a minimum value. So that value stands as a mark. Below that value we consider, or we allow the processes, or we allow something to work on. If something exceeds the threshold value, we will prevent it so that it won't cause much overhead or disturbances. So let us see how this threshold value is limited, is maintained. So in case of the threshold based on the threshold policy, threshold value, we have two types, that is lightly loaded and heavily loaded. That is actually, if suppose a load is comes under below the threshold value, we call it as a lightly loaded. If suppose it exceeds that particular threshold value, we say that it is heavily loaded. So threshold value is again, it can be determined into two types: static policy and dynamic policy. So static policy predefined threshold value for each node depending upon the processing capability. Each node has a threshold value depending upon the processing capability. In dynamic, the threshold value is calculated from the average load. So it is based on the average load. When after distributing the load, we will calculate the threshold value and have a predefined constant in order to balance the value, equate it. So as we already saw, below the threshold value, a node accepts the processes to execute, and we call that as a lightly loaded node. If suppose it exceeds, then it is called a heavily loaded node. So what happens? There are two types of policy. First was the single threshold policy and double threshold policy. You can see in this figure, in the right hand side diagram, single threshold policy. The threshold is only one threshold, and in that threshold, there are only two categories. Either it is underload or it is overload. So what happens? Suppose a node may be seen for a particular node has been seen at the state as underload for a particular number of time. When it receives the new load, it all of a sudden becomes overload, and we are not that sure that it can process the whole load of the system. So in order to avoid that, that is the state changes immediately from underload to overload on reception of just one single particular load. So to determine that, to make it to make it a standard, we assume or we go from single threshold policy to double threshold policy. In double threshold policy, you can see the threshold is again divided into two, that is low mark, high mark. Below the low mark, it is underloaded. Above the low mark and in between the high mark, we call it as a normal or norm 1. So the system will still function good in this below high mark. When it goes above the high mark, we call it as overloaded. So in this case of overloaded, the system may function not so good. It needs some other node to transfer the remaining policy. So the double threshold policy is preferred. So again in the let us see in each part, that is in below low mark, below high mark, and above high mark, how the policies are processed, how the node are processed. So when the node is overhead region, that is the above part, new local processes are sent to run remotely. Request to accept the remote processes are rejected. So what happens? Any new processes which has to run locally within the node, that itself it is sent to run remotely. It is sent to run in some other node to process. So no new processes are accepted. Request for no new processes are accepted because it is overloaded already. In case of normal node, that is normal region, we see that the local processes run locally. They will run locally. The request to accept remote processes are rejected. So other remote processes to run in some other project nodes, they are rejected. Now we see the node which is in under region. So here the new local processes, they run locally. They also accept requests to remote processes. So they also allow any remote processes. Suppose some other node is overloaded and they want to run their local process in some other remote processes, this type of underloaded region will accept that node. So that node, and they will that is called as request from the other remote processes are accepted, and they are also processed. So now we are going to see about location policy. So in location policy, in location policy, the policy selects there are two methods. Threshold method. Here the policy selects a random node and checks whether the node is able to receive the process. When the That is, if the node rejects, it will select randomly some other node, and this continues until the search limit, probe limit, or the search limit is reached. So once it finds some node with the which is able to receive the process, then the location, that is the load, is transferred to that particular node. So that is the threshold method. So again I say, in threshold method, the policy selects a random node, checks whether the node is able to receive the process, then transfer the process. If the particular node rejects, then another node is selected randomly, and this continues until the probe limit is reached. Shortest method. In shortest method, let us consider L distinct nodes are chosen at random. Each is polled to determine its load. The process is transformed to the node having minimum value unless its workable value prohibits to accept the process. So it will it's based on the election. It is election, the process are transferred to the node, so it will select. So if it is it will select based on the polling. So every node will inform their condition and readiness to accept the so far processes, and again they will give the process count. If suppose so among them, the shortest among them, the node which is requesting for the poll will select the minimum value. It will see how many the load value of each and every node, and it will select the minimum value, and then it will take that into account. And if suppose this even it is rejected, in case the workload value prohibits to accept the process, sometimes the node which has a minimum value may have another priority or other workload which has to be run locally. So in that case, it will deny. So we can have a simple suggestion or improvement to discontinue the probing when whenever probing in the sense searching. So how we can avoid this searching every kind? So here, whenever the node encounters a zero load value, then we can select that node. So that means that the particular node has a no load, so we can transfer our load to that node. So in that case, we can stop probing or searching and wasting the time. So that is the shortest method. The binding method. In case of binding method, we have two things, that is each nodes contain a managers. What is the job of a manager? Here the manager will send the processes. Managers to send the processes, they will send the process. So the process which they have, they will send to other nodes. Contractors are they will receive. We know what is a contract. Contract means we'll receive the work, we'll take the work and do it. Managers, we give the work and we get we'll get the work done. So that is the basic thing. So managers, they will allocate the process to other nodes and see that the processes or the work is completed. Contractors, they feel that they are free, so they will ask the other nodes to give work to them, or they will take over the task and do it. So now let us see the working between the managers, how the managers work and how the contractors work. So the managers broadcast a request for bid. The contractors respond with the bids. That is, first the managers will give the manager has to give the work. So he has the work and he have to transfer it some other. So he gives the request first. He will say that see, I have so much and so loads. So if anyone willing to take the load, you can do so. So while the contractors, they are ready to do the work. So what the contractor does now, they respond with the bids in the sense they respond the message by the prices based on the capacity of the contractor load. So even So now the manager is giving the work, or giving the process. Now the contractor will say his capability, that is how far he can accept the work. If suppose these contractors have a load value of normal loads, so they cannot take overloaded one. So in that case they can perform well with the light loaded ones. So they advertise or they respond to the manager with their capability or capacity, and the manager selects the best offer. The manager will select among the contractors which one is best, which one can do more work, or which can do the work at a faster rate, which one is efficient. Based on that, the manager will select. So winning contractor is now notified. So the manager has selected a contractor. Now it is notified and asked whether it accepts the process for execution or not. After selecting, again a confirmation is made whether the particular contractor is ready to accept for execution or not. If it denies, again the process of broadcasting will go on. Again the selection, again the contractors will give their responses, and again the selection process goes on. So now we'll see what is the features in this bidding method. Here the full autonomy of the for nodes regarding scheduling. So here the autonomy for the nodes have the full autonomy. They can function independently. So once the scheduling is made, once the process is allocated to the contractors, now they can make the schedule, and now they can work with the other contractor nodes. The manager of particular node will communicate with the contractor, and they can work. So they have the full autonomy. It is not disturbed by any other node because they are busy. Once the contractor is busy, he won't accept any other request from the bids from the other manager. So the independence is established. Now what happened? Second thing, the major demerit is big communication overhead. Why communication overhead? Because every time the manager broadcasts his state, so there may be chances that some chances of multiple messages have been broadcasted, and that may create a overhead in communication. And again, at times it may happen, it may not get the latest version of the message or latest version of the broadcast due to connectivity or network issues. The old one may be received, and that may create some other issues. So again, difficult to decide a good pricing policy. So the policy, since there are many number of contractors with different capabilities, at times it becomes a overhead to again determine which pricing policy is good and how it is good, and based on which we have to select. So these things becomes the overhead for the manager, or these are the demerits of this particular method. The fourth policy in the location policy is pairing. So what happens in case of the previous one? The manager has to send the broadcast message, the contractors will again respond to it. The selecting them becomes a overhead. In order to avoid that, there is another method called pairing. In here how it works: each node will select another node. They share the loads within themselves. They share and they try to maintain a balance between the nodes. So the one main policy, or the one main requirement to find a partner or to is that each node should have at least two processes. If suppose there is only one processor in a particular node, the node can act over it or process it. So the condition is, if a node has more than one processes, then it can go for looking a partner to share the load. So each node asks some randomly chosen node to form a pair with it. If it receives a rejection, then it randomly selects another node and tries to pair again. So the two nodes that differ greatly in load are temporarily paired with each other, and the migration starts. The process migration from node 1 to node 2, they start, and the work is somehow done. So after the migration is everything is over, the pair is broken. So this is how the pairing works. So here they instead of making the broadcast and again selecting, these overheads are greatly reduced. Just they go looking for one particular pair whom with that with whom they can exchange the processes. So now the state information exchange policy. Here we can see the dynamic policies require frequent exchange of state information. Only if they know the state information, whether they're lightweighted, norm, or overloaded, they can assign or receive the loads. But these extra messages arise two opposite impacts. What are the two opposite impacts? Let us see. Increasing the number of messages gives more accurate scheduling decision. Yes, if suppose there are more number of information, they can schedule accurately. Increasing the number of messages arises queuing time of the messages. Again, queuing time will increase. There is a possibility of message overhead. So these are the two opposite impacts. When the number of messages is more, the decision can be taken accurately. But again, when the number of messages is more, message overhead will take. So the time for choosing the right for taking the appropriate decision will be delayed. And again the QA, yes. So in case of let us see the state information policies can be the following. What may be the following? That is, they can be periodic broadcast when the state changes, on demand exchange by pooling. So these are the states information. So dynamic policies collect the state information. And what can be the different state information? That is periodic broadcast. Periodic broadcast, let us see. In case of periodic broadcast, each node broadcasts its state information after the elapse of t units of time. That is, after a particular time, each and every node will broadcast its state information. How the state is, whether it is overhead, whether it is norm, whether it is busy, it will broadcast it. So it has a default. What is the default? Heavy traffic, because it is broadcasting the message every now and then. Not always that every other node is interested in knowing the state of that particular node, whether it is state busy or not. Only if it so the messages are fruitless means they do not achieve their goal. Poor scalability, since information exchange is too large for networks having many nodes. So we cannot add more number of networks, because it has to send messages for that many number of nodes, and sending that many number of messages for that many number of nodes many times, that is periodically of a particular many times frequently, that may become hectic. So then we'll see the next one. We'll see the next one. Broadcast when the state changes. So what is broadcast when the state changes? It will just notify when it changes from one particular state to another. Suppose so far a particular node is on overhead, and it changes from overhead to norm. So when it changes from overhead to norm, it just notifies that it is free, and it is ready to accept the messages from the remote messages. When a particular node changes its state from norm to lightweighted, it says that it is ready to accept the messages to run them, to accept the processes to run them locally. So these are the different states, and they just notify when they change from one state to another. So the advantage is it avoids that sending the n number of messages which doesn't reach their goal, that is unnecessary message by broadcasting. So based on the process arrives and departures, it changes its states. Further improvement of to this broadcast, only the state switches to another region. Double threshold policy. We know in double threshold policy we have a low level and a high level mark to distinguish the different status. So next we see the on-demand exchange policy. See, on-demand exchange policy, the name we can understand based on the priority. It has it needs the request. It needs to be handled immediately. So in this case, what happens? This method node broadcast a state information request message when its state switches from normal to either overloaded or overloaded region. So sorry, now it says switches from normal to either underload or overloaded region. So in case of overloaded region, it notifies that it needs some help from other nodes to share its load. Or in case of underloaded, it says that it is free. It can help other nodes to work with them. So on receiving this message, other nodes reply with their own state information to the requesting node. Further improvement can be the only those nodes reply with are useful to the requesting node. So the interested nodes. So if suppose on changing on giving the node request information, so those nodes the reply is received from only those nodes which are same which are ready to assist them. So other nodes will just ignore the request. So in that case we can identify the specific nodes only, so we can connect with them. So this is the advantage of on demand exchange. Now we see the exchange by pooling. In case of exchange by pooling, to avoid poor scalability. So what is where the we have to avoid the poor scalability? That is in case of broadcasting. We are sending the messages now every now and then. Where so far we have seen the broadcasting thing on demand also. The state will broadcast. In broadcast method again it will broadcast. To avoid all this thing, the partner node is searched by polling. So what about to other nodes? If suppose it needs it needs suppose a partner node is, if a node needs a partner, it will just start a poll. It will see the poll request is sent to one node by another. If suppose the request is received by a node who has already more processor, it will just ignore it and it will send that polling request to some other process. If that process has has some less amount of process, it says that if it is suppose we consider it is ready to accept the request, then too it will send the node to another pool. So after that, the requesting pool would get a list of nodes with low number of processes. From those number, it will select the minimum number, the node with the minimum number of processes, and it will pair with it. So the poll limit will be chosen by the algorithm. So based on that poll limit, it will it will send a polling request. Why we need a limit? If suppose there is no limit, then the polling request may travel from one node to many other node, and it will be a never ending process, because again the scalability will be issue. If suppose the network is a very big network, in that case we have to send the polling request have to travel very wide number of nodes, and there may be so the time delay will be there. Efficiency is again a question mark. So in order to avoid all those things, the polling limit is set to a particular value. Within that particular value, it will be it is the requested node will get some responses, and within that responses, it has to choose the best. So now we see the priority assignment. So what is priority assignment in load balancing algorithm? So based on that, we have three priorities. First one is selfish, altruistic, and intermediate. What we say selfish? Local processes are given higher priority than remote processes. Worst response time, performance of the three policies. So yes, selfish processes, we know our work has to be done first. So that is the scheme over here. Here the local processes within the node are given more priority. It sees that the local process is completed first, then it gives the priority to other migrated process or request from other nodes. So in this case, the worst response time, performance of the performance is very worst because it is not aware of the other processes. So when we talk about a network of systems, we should know the efficiency should be overall. It is not based on a particular node. If this particular node is efficient, that is not going to be fruitful for the entire system, entire network of system. Entire network should be efficient. So that is what we focus. So this fails in that sense. So altruistic, remote processors are given higher priority than the local process. Best response time, performance of the three policies. So whenever the response here, the responses, the request from the other responses, other nodes are given first priority. So when other are given first priority, that means it will respond to them immediately. So the response time is better. So now we will see the intermediate intermediate policy. So in case of intermediate one, when the number of local processes is greater or equal to the number of remote processes, local processes are given higher priority than the remote processes. Otherwise, remote processes are given higher priority than the local processes. So here we see either it will, if the number of local processes are greater than the number of remote processes, are greater than the number of remote processes. In that case, there are, it has two types. It has the option of choosing two types. Either it can give importance to the local processes, finish it first, and then it go for the remote processes, or it can finish the remote process and then it can go for local processes. So migration policy, it's the last policy we have reached, and this is the migration policy. This policy determines the total number of times a process can migrate. Suppose when we can see a process, we need a process to be migrated. It is not that so that the load can be balanced. Not every time the entire load can be distributed. At times we have to see that the load, in order to reduce the load, we will migrate the process. So we have set a limit for this load migration, process migration. Why we have to set a limit? If not, if there is no limit, what happens? The each migration policy for each node has a certain algorithm to function on. For like that, for in case some migration process are mostly based on working on overloaded. Some are based on working on lightweight processes. So if suppose another load comes and it sees, it is suppose a migration, a process which is working on working on a low lightweighted node, sees that another process arriving and that process is more lighter than this one, it will migrate and work on that particular process. Suppose it sees that another process arrives and that is lighter than the current one, it will migrate. So in order to stop this kind of issues, we have a limit. We usually set a limit. So let us see that this policy determines the total number of times a process can migrate. Uncontrolled, a remote process arriving at a node is treated just as a process originating at a node. So a process may be migrated any number of times. So when in case of a remote process, in case of a remote process coming from different nodes, it can be treated as a migrated one. Because it is since it when this process arrives, it arrives in case when there is the overload is there, it cannot work over it, and hence it comes to another process. So in this case we don't control it, we give the migration policy, migration time to as many times it wants, so that it can work on it. In case of controlled, it avoids instability of the uncontrolled policy. So yes, as I have already said, if suppose it finds something is lighter than the previous one, it will go on and on. In order to stop that, we go for controlled policy, uncontrolled policy. In uncontrolled policy, we use a migration count parameter to fix a limit on the number of time a process can migrate. So we give a limit, that is it can hop or migrate over 5 times. Migrate over sentence, we give a limit, and this is called migration count parameter. There is a thing called irrevocable migration policy. In that case, the migrating count is fixed only one, that is it can migrate only once, and after that if once the node is migrated from one node to another, after that it cannot migrate to another node, it has to work on it. So that is called irrevocable migration policy. For long execution processes, migration count must be greater than 1. Yeah, if the process is very long, it requires complex things, then we should not limit that migration to 1 to adapt dynamic, so that it can adapt for dynamically changing states. So this is about the policies in designing load balancing algorithms. So go through it. We'll see it the next time. Thank you.